Okay. Are we ready to go?
And then after I do roll call, I said we're adjourning. That's it.
Closed session.
All right, we're ready for you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:34. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. Karen Harding Davis, I'm here. Nita Kushal. Here. Sean King,
Not here.
not present.
He is, right, he's coming, but he's not here yet.
Okay. Gina Lee. Here. Maria Mejarado.
Here.
Christy Merchant.
Here.
Jennifer Morgan.
Will be arriving soon.
Ashante Norton.
Ashante will not be joining us.
All right. Okay, we are going to go to closed session now.
Jonathan Core is running a little bit late,
Oh,
but he
yeah,
will
sorry.
be attending. And can we do a roll call of the students as well, please?
Okay, sure. Tanaya Safi. Here.
Tanaya, are you on?
Lillian Carter.
Here.
Crystal Law.
Crystal will not be joining us. In place of Crystal, Ali Kadiri will be presenting, but he will not be arriving until 6:15.
Okay. And is it Liana Machado?
Ileana, are you on? Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, now we are going to close this meeting or adjourn this meeting and go to closed session.
Yes. And for the record, Jennifer Morgan just arrived.
And what time are we adjourning? Do you have that time?
5:35.
5:35? All right, so we will adjourn to closed session in the other room. And we'll come back at 6:15.
6:15. Stop video for now. right, go ahead.
All right, Ziba, it should be noted, John Core arrived. He was
Thank
not
you.
our first roll call.
Also Sean King.
Yes, sorry, Sean. Okay, and all of the student liaisons are here.
And Kanaya has joined via Zoom. Lillian Carter is on. Al Kadiri, are you here? Not yet. And I don't see that Ileana has joined just yet,
Okay,
but perhaps by the time we get there.
okay. Let's see, no action taken during closed session. I think we should start tonight with recognitions and celebrations, because why not?
Fantastic idea. All right.
Start those two.
Yes, let's go and start. Ms. Coe, could you come up and talk to us a little bit about our first recognitions for tonight? So first, Ms. Peggy, do you mind introducing yourself to the group?
My name is Peggy Goh. I'm the Mandarin Chinese teachers at the Thomas PFAA.
And we're so excited to have her as part of our program. She actually joined us during the middle of the pandemic, so you might not have had an opportunity to meet her. But tonight we're going to be giving awards to two students. You want to talk a little bit about the program that they've been
Yes.
accepted into?
Tonight we are going to honor these two students. The first student is Gianna Hale Golden. Gianna and the second student is Eva Coleman. Can you come over? January, they got accepted to University of Hawaii's very intensive program called Star Talk program. And they having study on top of their Mandarin program, they also intensively study virtually with the University of Hawaii. And then at the end, they are selected to attend the summer program, and they will be in University of Hawaii, Honolulu for 3 weeks. It's very incredible that our students got selected because it's out of the whole country. They only select 20 students to attend.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it is very competitive. And I actually attended that program as a teacher. I took 2015, and I went as outstanding student. Were able to do work and excited to see when they actually at the end of the program to see how they succeed. So we're going to be giving the award to Gianna. Continue to succeed.
Group picture. Jennifer would like to bring luggage, help you with luggage. Thank you guys very much. Congratulations. Congratulations. All right, next we have individuals who have earned the state seal of biliteracy. So board member Morgan is going to read off some names. If we call your name, if you can come up and join us, and we'll do a group picture as well. So I can. Here, you take this one. And I can put it. Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to read the language as well?
Sure.
Okay, Cristina Garabino for Spanish. Roman Gonzalo for Spanish. Gabriela Cervantes Aneguas for Spanish. Alexander Jaimes for Spanish. Yolanda Cadena for Spanish. Juliana Lashua for Spanish. Madeline Lee, Spanish. Tayana Little for Spanish. Okay, this one is really special. Amaya Lucas for French and Spanish. Nicholas Matthew for Spanish. Avery McCrae for French. Gabrielle Paradin for Spanish. Excuse me, for French. Ali Kadiri for Spanish. Caroline Reed, Spanish. Kyle Saley for Spanish. Larry Sand, Mandarin.
There we go. Juliana Lashua, she's here, she's coming.
Oh, great, okay.
Here you go. Juliana, come on in. You're right on time.
Thank you.
It's not too organized.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dea Wilson for Spanish. Tri-Angel Wu for Mandarin. Mia Yang, Spanish. Gabriella. Yeah.
Come over.
And finally, Stella Yi for Mandarin.
All right. Congratulations. I'm gonna have you let's go over this way. We'll take a little picture. Ms. Hone and Dr. Ellis run away. They don't want to be in the picture. All right. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Squeeze in. Yay. All right. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you. Thank you. All right. You guys can have a seat.
We have a special luncheon for all the students on May 19th. They will all have a special French and Spanish and Chinese food.
All right, so our last group for tonight is we're honoring individuals who have earned the Seal of Civic Engagement. This is actually a new program. Ms. Barrow, do you want to talk a little bit about the program? I know you know it well.
So the Seal of Civic Engagement is a new award that students can earn in the state of California, or in just the first couple of years of its existence. And this is the first year that we've had it at Untitled Charter School. And so for this, the students need to show their civic engagement. So by doing some sort of project or community outreach or community service, as well as reflecting on how their work has impacted the community and how they would continue it or change it if they were to do it in the future. So the students have quite a lot of work. We had our first batch of students apply for it this year, and they did really great. I've been working with Megan Eichner, our history teacher from the Virtual Academy, and Jeff Pollard from the Performing and Fine Arts Academy to build the program and the rubrics and all of the things. And then we had a panel of teachers that looked at the applications. And so it's really quite amazing, the projects. So if you get a chance to talk to the students about the projects that they did, some were senior projects, some were not, then you're in for a treat to hear all the things that they do.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay, let's start with Henry Goldberg.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Cameron Hafer. Amaya Lucas.
We have two for you from the other side.
Yeah, two ladies, right?
While we're waiting, can you tell, what was your project?
So I worked on tutoring.
Okay,
I did a bunch of things, but mainly my thing was teaching to underprivileged kids.
awesome.
I did it through a program I heard about in Rotary my first year, which thank you, which was Genify and a Miracle for Youth Organization.
Awesome, and Cameron, what'd you do?
I'm an Eagle Scout in Boy Scouts of America, and for Eagle, you have to do an Eagle project. And I did a service project in Lake Tahoe that was a week long, where I restored a historical landmark.
Awesome, thank you. Can you go on mine? What was your project?
I talked about, I'm also in Rotary Club like Henry, and we recently, in the beginning of the year, did a food drive, so I just talked about that.
Awesome, good job. All right, yeah.
Naomi Gutierrez. Ali Kadiri.
Ali, what was your project?
I believe I just detailed all the time I spent in ASB working over the 4 years.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
That's ASB.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Madeline Lee.
And Madeline, what was your project?
I collaborated with Mr. Pollard to develop ethnic studies curriculum.
Oh, develop ethnic studies curriculum. Awesome, very good.
Matthew Smith. Crystal Law. Seema Thapa.
And Seema, what was your project?
I did a Rotary Stereo Tour at UC Berkeley
Okay.
where I sent books to incarcerated people.
Awesome, awesome, thank you.
Madison Holtrutter. Juliana Lasha.
And Juliana, what was your project?
I was part of the initiative that made questions for the 2020 Natomas school district. Yes, for the election.
For the election? Candidate forum.
Candidate forum, Miss Eichner.
And you got to do that virtual, which was a first experience for all of us.
Okay, and finally, Jacqueline Smith and Dooney.
All right, have you guys scoot over, you can take a picture. Board member here.
You go on the other side.
Yeah, you can go both sides.
Okay, I can be the only one.
All right, big smile.
Come on, are we squeezed in enough for you?
You're good, you're good, you're good. All right, 1, 2, 3. Great job. Thank you, guys. And we'll make sure the rest of these get to people tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to start off our board meetings with some celebrations and recognitions of all your hard work. Thank you. If you don't want to stay, you have homework to do, performances to prepare for, and there's a few things going on. So feel free to, either there's a door there or a door there. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is.
No.
All right.
Okay. Next up, student information update. Tania's 5-4 leading edge, please.
Hi. So for this month's board items, I wanted to talk to you all about how we had spring break from April 14th through the 24th. And both our boys and girls teams for 7th and 8th, so the soccer teams, went all the way to playoffs, semifinals, and both teams went on to finals or championships. And our girls soccer team came out victorious and are the new champions for soccer. And so throughout the whole year, we now have 3 champion teams throughout the league: the girls volleyball team, the girls basketball, and girls soccer team. So and we had Webb do a send out leadership web applications for the 7th graders this year for next year, and they're being finalized for the upcoming 8th graders. And we had an Eat Your Art Out event or open house for Leading Edge on May 5th. It took place from 5 to 7 p.m. and there was art exhibits, there was a bounce house, food trucks, music, games, and Tycho as well did a performance and much more. And the web team this year also held an ice cream social for the 6th graders this morning on May 9th. And the 6th graders went on one of their first field trips for this year after COVID on May 6th to the new Mosaic Museum. And on May 12th and 13th upcoming, we will have minimum days for the 6th and 7th graders, and the 8th graders will be staying back and presenting their portfolios for the end of the year. As well as we're gonna have our last Spirit Week and rally from May 16th to May 20th, and the theme is going to be We Are NCS. And we're going to have a 4-day weekend from May 27th through 30th. And Mr. Shane, our PE teacher, is planning on opening up volleyball clinics for next year's team to begin practices and develop a team. And all the students are now finalizing grades, as well as final projects are going out, and all the students are really hyped up for the end of the year. So, thank you. That's
All right.
it.
Thanks, Tanaya.
Lillian Carter, PACT update, please.
So for this month's board meeting, I wanted to tell you a little about what's going on now and the upcoming events. April 8th was middle school movie night, and we watched Encanto. That was from 2 to 4. 25 students in grades 6, 7, and 8 attended to watch the movie, enjoy snacks, and spend time together. May 16th through 19th, we will have an Usborne book fair on campus. Parents and students will have the opportunity to purchase fun, educational books, along with materials to use for homeschooling. This is also a fundraiser and will help buy books for the PACT library. On May 18th, PACT will have an open house and a student expedition and from exhibition night from 5:30 to 7. The theme is Trailblazers, and there will be an art display with students' art things on it, student performances, activities for the families to do together. The community is invited to come by and visit. The PACT dance recital will be on Tuesday, May 31st at 6 p.m. Students in grades kindergarten through 8 who have been in the dance workshops this year will perform their dance numbers in the Benvenuti Theater. The theme is Magic Happens. Our 8th grade promotion ceremony will be held in the Benvenuti Theater on Tuesday, June 7th at 6 p.m. We will celebrate the hard work of PACT 8th graders and send them off to high school. June 10th is the last day of school, and that's it.
Next up, Crystal Law with a PFA update.
Ollie is actually going to present on behalf of Crystal.
All right.
Our Vice President Crystal wasn't able to attend, so I'm just gonna read all the updates that they left for me. So if I had to describe what's happening right now, it's just performances. There's performance. There's performances that I didn't even know were happening that I'm in. But to name a few, we have the 25 music concert and the strings concert that happened on April 29th and then May 6th. So that involved both high school and middle school and a lot of the numbers that they performed. And then the dance department spring dance celebration is going to be on May 18th, 19th, and the 20th. And all that information can be found on www.benarts.org. And then as seniors bring their projects to a close, there are also a bunch of other events that are going to be happening on campus. For an example, was last Saturday, Luis Fernando had his wonderful sort of show. It was called The Taste of Mexico. I was able to perform in it. And it was just a blast to be able to perform and watch at the same time. Merlin E's Real American Art Gallery, Ava Diener's fashion show, and then for all those details on senior projects, you can find it on the PFA newsletter. And then the Intersectional Festival is coming up, and all students are going to be invited to attend. All of the information for that is available on the weekly bulletin. And then Natomas Charter Schools in the Heights production was nominated for the Rita Moreno Awards, which is a statewide musical theater competition. I believe around 25 different high schools had submitted their show in this competition. And we got nominated for 2 things. We got nominated for Best Actor and then Best Overall Production, along with 5 other schools. So super excited. I feel like I was nominated for Best Actor. I was nominated for Best Actor for Nominated in the Heights, so it's very exciting. I get to go perform there and represent charters. So we're preparing for that right now. I just came out of rehearsal like an hour ago. But it's lots of fun. And we're going to be going to San Jose this upcoming Monday. So a week from today, we'll be in San Jose competing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got this.
And then, thank you. And then, CAS testing just concluded. It was from April 28th, May 1st, 6th, 8th, from April 20th to May 1st. And then the 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, and 11th graders completed testing, while 9th and 12th graders had workshop rotations. And then additionally, some ARC information is that 10th and 11th graders can now sign up to take dual enrollment college classes next year. And the courses that are going to be offered are English 300, Diversity in Film, Music History, and then Statistics 300. I'm a current senior who actually signed up to take English 300 and 302. So it was extremely helpful. It was a totally different way of like learning all my stuff. And I know the term dual enrollment the term dual enrollment explains it all. You're on campus, and I actually had Ms. Calero to help me and assist us in all our work. So it's not like the students are going to be on their own or anything, just doing these classes. We actually have some great support to help us look over our work and collaborate. So yeah, if any of the students are interested, it's a great way to get college credit and just work your skills. And then middle school spring social was April 29. I was able to help out and volunteer, and that was a great experience. I don't believe we do high school socials anymore, but for the middle schoolers, they really do like it and enjoy it, and it was really cool to see them interact. And then spring vocal concert is going to be May 26th and May 25th, and then those tickets can also be purchased on benarts.org. And that's going to have all the vocal classes, workshop, theory and technique, vocal 1, vocal 2, and then vocal ensemble. They'll all be performing. So it's going to be a blast. And then finally, I have that Theater Fest is on May 7th in the Black Box, and that's at 12 p.m. And Theater Fest is for the Acting 2 honor students. And at the moment, they are working on directing a bunch of scenes with student directors and student actors. And those are all going to be presented in the Black Box on the day of. So it's lots of fun. We have pieces from amazing plays. And yeah, that's what I have for the board updates. Thank you guys so much. I'm attending UCLA next year. I'll be attending for theater with an emphasis in acting. So
If you want to go to San Jose next Monday, we'll be going. So we get to vote halfway through the show.
Yeah, for fan favorite.
Wow, how fun. All right, finally, Ileana Mercado with Virtual Learning Academy / Early College Academy.
I do not see her on the call.
Okay.
I can read through it.
Or Joe?
I'll read through it. So registration for the 22-23 school year has been out and about, and we had people turn them in on the 24th. Grade level meetings were going on actually the 4th through the 10th. We had the big day of giving on May 5th, which, as it mentions, is a school-wide celebration of curriculum with food trucks, bounce houses, and more. Staff Appreciation Week was last week, the 2nd through the 6th. There's no workshops on the 6th because we had a staff development day for VLA ACA. Senior Showcase is on the 20th at 4 o'clock. This is when seniors will be in the LC or the Learning Center to show their projects and shadow projects for others to see. On the 27th, there's no school because of the staff development day. And May 25th, seniors will have their business plans presented in a Shark Tank from 1:30 to 3:30. Anyone is welcome to see the senior projects, right?
Still looking for entrepreneurs if you are interested in being
all
a
right.
part.
That could be fun.
Thank you.
Okay, that was 1:30 to 3:30, right?
Yes.
All right, let's see, next section, hearing of the public for items not on the agenda.
Nothing received via the form.
Okay, and if any of our student reps are still here, please feel free to return to your regularly scheduled programming. All right, hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
Also nothing received via the form.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for the updates.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Does anybody have any comments on tonight's agenda? May I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you, Karen. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Uh-oh. Preeti said that you spoke over her.
Okay.
Preeti seconds.
Okay, I'll second.
I heard you. Sorry. Karen Harding Davis?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Dr. Megarado?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Ashante is not present. Okay. Moving on, I think we have quite a few consent items. Any questions, comments on those? Okay, may I have a motion to approve tonight's consent items?
I so moved.
Oh, no,
I'll second. No, let me know. I'll second. See, we got the big voices. I'm sorry.
Gina with the motion?
Yes, and it's Maria with the second.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking care of you.
All right. Action items, we have.
Oh, we need to do a roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. She threw me off. Roll call vote. Karen Harding Davis.
Yes.
Nita Kushal.
Yeah.
Sean King.
Yes.
Gina Lee.
Yes.
Dr. Maria Medrado.
Abstain, no, yes. I'm abstaining, but okay, yes.
Preeti Merchant.
Yes.
What was in that? Preeti Merchant.
Yeah.
Jennifer Morgan, I'm a yes. Ashante Norton is absent still. Let's see, action items. First one here is approved resolution 0509 2022.01, authorizing representatives to the State Allocation Board, Office of Public School Construction, and the filing of applications for funding under the state facility program.
That's all.
A little bit of a long title. So Natomas Charter School is pursuing a charter schools facilities grant for future construction projects at Star Academy and potentially this campus. So this is actually a resolution that would allow Anita and I to be signers on this particular grant project. If we don't have this resolution, then actually every approval of this process, we have to call a special board meeting.
Oh, no. You don't want that.
Probably not gonna be hard to get a vote.
Yeah. Anyone want to make a motion?
I have a motion to approve resolution 0509 2022.01.
I so moved. Pretty.
Very pretty.
Preeti, may I have a second?
Second.
Gina Lee is our second. Okay, roll call vote. Let's see, Jennifer, I'm a yes. Preeti?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes.
Okay, moving on, action item number 2.
So our next resolution here is to increase our revolving fund account to $100,000. This will allow us to, especially at the end of the year with employees that are coming and going, allow us to process all final checks in a timely manner.
May I have a motion to approve resolution 0509 2022.02?
So moved.
Thank you, Karen. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nita. Roll call vote, Karen?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Number 3. Job description for occupational therapists is a new job description.
This is a new job description. Typically, we've contracted out for this, but we have enough students who need the service, and we're hoping to have our own internal employees, so we won't have to actually contract out for this anymore. So the job description is here for occupational therapists.
May I have a motion to approve new job description for occupational therapist?
I so moved.
Thank you, Maria. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. Let's see, roll call vote. Karen?
Yes.
Nita?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Okay. And that's it for action items. Now we get to move on to our presentation. Dr. Ellis has our diversity, equity, and inclusion presentation.
Thank you. And Ms. Holmes, do you have it?
That'd be great.
So before we start with the presentation, I actually want to introduce the team that will be presenting with me. So we have Tyra Calero, who is an English teacher at PFA, the youngest teacher. Jennifer Aiken is at Pack Academy, she's a fireman there. I was on a roll and it killed me. Megan Eichner is a teacher at VLA. Naomi Barr is in math at PFAA. And Brenda Rios is at our school psychologist, one of our school psychologists. So the diversity, equity, inclusion team, this update, if you go to the next slide, really, we started this in 2020 and we have committed to updating you each year on where we stand. With this Wordle, we did this Wordle when we first started in 2020. We asked different people, what do you think of when you hear the words diversity, equity, inclusion? If you notice, the words that were said most often are the biggest ones there. Humanity, culture, community. So when we think of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Natomas Charter School, Yes, all of those words, humanity, culture, compassion, community, that's who we are and what we stand for. Go to the next slide. We were founded in 2020 after some high-profile police shootings. The 10 people came together, Bailey Manisto Iches, she is one of our school psychologists, Caitlin Kelly, she's here in the library, Carolyn Himes, one of our counselors, Danielle Belcastro-Bisbiscus, one of our counselors, Elsa Pratal, who is one of our librarians, our own librarian, Jeff Pollard, Gabriel Nigaro, Melinda Curtis, Scott Simple, and myself. So we started it. And if you look at the next slide, we have now expanded. And so each year we want to grow the participation because it can't be about one person. It can't be the 10 people who first came together to say diversity, equity, inclusion matters. It has to be something that is moved forward and advanced by our full community. An overview of DEI, so diversity, equity, inclusion. When we say DEI here at Natomas Charter School, we wanted to ensure that we had representation across all 5 academies, including central services. So not only do we have our 5 academies represented, central services are those people who go to all 5 academies. So we have full representation in our committee. It recognizes that our students who identify as Black or other racialized minorities, students who identify as English as a second language, those who have IEPs, those who identify as LGBTQ+, that their belonging cues might look and sound different than those who have been represented historically within our school system. And acknowledging that their belonging cues look different. So belonging cues are those things that says you matter, you belong, you're important, this is your school. Those are belonging cues. And these individuals, they might have belonging cues that look somewhat different. And so our DEI committee, it recognizes and begins to look at our policies, our procedures, our practices, our curriculum to ensure that all of our students are engaged and that they all know they belong in our curriculum. We work to identify and implement best practices that align resources to meet the needs of our students. You may know there's a saying that says, when you raise the tide, you raise all boats. When you meet the needs of those who are most underrepresented, we actually begin to meet the needs of all students. So when you do the best by those most in need, you're actually doing the best by all of our kids. And lastly, as I was saying, developing and implementing policies, procedures, and practices that promote inclusion and educational justice. You might be asking, so what? I don't care. Why? Why are we doing this at Natomas Charter School? All of our foundational documents say that we must do this work. So yes, I might come and say, we have a moral authority and we have to do this as the right thing. Yes, that's there, but we also have all of our documents. Students first. All of our decisions are based on the needs of today's students. Today's students don't look like what we historically thought they should look like. Purposeful learning is driven by essential questions. Students find unique interests and talents. It allows our students to find what's unique about them and really tap into their talents, as we saw by all of our young people who were up earlier. Relevant. Learning builds towards student-driven products. So our students are able to drive their own learning and it's relevant to their needs. I'll pull out a couple more. Partners. Families and students are partners in the educational process. We'll talk about that a little bit more about how we want to expand to include our parents and our students on this committee. The belonging, diversity, equity, wellness, that speaks for itself as far as our shared community beliefs and values. The next slide. Our ESLers, our expected school-wide learning results. So our expected school-wide learning results, our ESLers, that's part of what we do for our WASC, our accreditation, is we have our ESLers. Our ESLers speak to academic reasoning, yes, but the two that speak towards our DEI work are social emotional wellness and global understanding. So again, the work matters because yes, we have a responsibility to serve all of our kids, and all of our guiding documents says this is what we're supposed to do. And lastly, I wanted to pull out the 5 traits of an NCS professional. In all of our interviews, we talk about dedication, intelligence, excellence, perseverance, integrity. All of those are the professional traits that we say we have as educators and that our community embodies. So we're gonna have those 5 traits. We need to make sure that our diversity, equity, inclusion work really ties into those 5 traits. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our policy subcommittee.
Good evening and good evening to anyone who might be able to see this live. Hi, I'm Tyra Claro and Jennifer Aikens coming on up. We're representing we're just the small representation of the larger policy subcommittee out of the many committees, the 3 committees on this under DEI. The purpose of the policy committee is to work in tandem with the other subcommittees, practice and curriculum, and also in supporting our goals. I'm an idea draft off of Dr. Ellis in terms of the partnership between families. So we wanted to create transparency in our process as we work to hold ourselves accountable to maintaining the integrity of our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So the first thing that we did was we drafted a document that would serve as an invitation to stakeholders, to parents, to students, to inquire about curriculum and to ask meaningful questions, so that again, we are holding ourselves accountable for the continued work in crafting mindful curriculum that meets the needs of standards and at the same time supports our students in our efforts for diversity, equity, inclusion. We also did a little additional something or other, so I'm going to pass it on over to Jennifer.
So if parents or guardians have feedback, they can use our form, and that will help us to improve our diversity and equity in our curriculum and give us more feedback, and then it supports the policy subcommittee of curriculum, which is next. We follow them so that we can better develop our policies.
And so our curriculum subcommittee is Ms. Eichner and 3 else.
So when we, our subcommittee got together and we started talking about, well, there's a lot here. There's a lot. What can we do to help our coworkers and our staff look at our own curriculum and self-reflect? So of course we came up with our whys and our whats and our hows. We want to ensure curricular content reflects our diverse community. We want to provide an opportunity to reflect on our instructional practices and working with teams to reflect on our practice and discuss content resources. One of the big self-audit topics that we wanted to talk about is inclusive, affirming representation, multiple perspectives, authenticity, assumed common experience, structural ideology, language, obviously relevance, personal and collective, and then author or illustrator authority.
So if you go to the next slide, here we have kind of a snapshot of what our self-audit looks like. The educators or the teams that are looking through their curriculum to find out how representative it is would have this guiding document to use as a way to digest, to look at into all their curriculum and come up with next steps and ways for them to continue to proceed to move forward and make changes to their curriculum. So what each of the self-audit contains is sections for the team to use to guide themselves through this work. It gives the teachers an opportunity to provide examples about how their curriculum is representative, and also through looking into the curriculum that we currently use, it might also prompt or probe, but for us as a team to kind of dig deeper, and also gives us an opportunity to note and document next steps so that those next steps don't get lost in the planning and you always have something to reference back to. So the next steps in terms of implementation plan, we want to make sure that when we are asking staff to engage in the self-audit, that they have the foundational knowledge that they need to start asking themselves those questions. Because if we just give teachers something to do and they've never had to question what their biases are, they might not know how to engage in this work. And so that's one of the first steps that we encourage the educators take. We want to give the teams an opportunity to determine shared agreements for what are some systemic issues that we as a SES community may face, and that we see within our curriculums, and then an opportunity to work within their departments to make this something that's achievable and easily accessible. And I think Ms. Eichner has an example.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this, obviously, we, as a teacher too, who has a lot to do, didn't want to seem like it's one more thing. We really want to encourage NCS to put this and streamline it into what we're already doing. If it's involving being a part of the MTSS stuff that we've all been learning, or for me this year, I encouraged my own principal to have this added onto one of our goal sheets. We all have to do goals every year. And so I had my personal goal that I was going to look at my own curriculum and how am I going to add in those things. And so it was easy for me to go back every time those reflections were and go, did I meet that goal? Did I add the stuff in? As a history teacher, did I add those things in that I wanted to add? So that was just an example of a way to really streamline the process back into it. And then we're going to hand it off to
So the practice subcommittee came in and said, okay, so how can we practice this every time? How can teachers, administrators come in and keep this practice coming? So we did a few things. We created a critical self-reflection site, a website, which you will see soon. It says, it starts with me. So it's having us look internally. Are we meeting the needs of our students, the needs of our community? And so there are a few really cool things about this site. We have a one-page reflection, and what we have here are students talking about the beauty of diversity. We even have some teachers. Oh, look, there's me, wonderful. And so these are just really short. These are like, I can't remember, 10 seconds, aren't they?
We can play one. Let's go up. Let's do Max.
Yep, Mac is a good one. Oh, volume. Maybe we won't play it. Okay, so anyways, each one of them are talking about, oh no.
Turn your computer off. Turn your mute.
There. Okay, good. So each one of them are talking about how they see their diversity as beauty within themselves. And so as teachers, we want to make sure that we're seeing that in our students and how they value themselves. So we created a critical self-reflection one-pager, which I actually took and did with one of my units. And that way, there's an example of it. And so that's up on the website so that teachers can see that. You know, it's always nice to have an example of something that's done, right? Like, ooh, which way should it be? That's how it should be. So this is just a one pager that can be tacked on to any unit or even each lesson if you want, to go back and reflect on where things are. And so the site is there to help anybody, a community member, board member, administrator, teacher, to really go and look at what's happening in our community, in our school. And then the one pager is there to help teachers really dive deep. Am I doing this? Am I including my community? Am I including the school with where I'm going? And that's just little screenshots.
And so all the screenshots of the practice subcommittee, when you look at the website, we encourage everyone to go to it and look at the videos. As board members, we would love for you to shoot your Flipgrid and add into your feelings of what diversity, equity, inclusion means to you. How are you special in this world? Being able to see multiple perspectives is how we grow. So as we come to a close, kind of where are we? Where did we start? We started June of 2020, 10 staff members. We led summer reading groups. From that, we went on to 2021. We had meetings with students, with parents. We had our first, we grew a little bit. We expanded for that 10 to about 14 people. We drafted our guiding document. So the document that guides our work as a diversity, equity, inclusion team. We did that. We designed that in 2020. You, as a board, you passed resolution 04-19-2101 that denounced violence, bigotry, and hate crimes. And as a committee, we participated in facilitated training on diversity, equity, inclusion. Our third stop, which is this year, the 21-22 school year, we expanded the team. We formed the subcommittees that were before you earlier to take our work a little bit deeper. And we developed the policy, practice, and curriculum guidance that will move us forward. The last step for us this year is to finalize what's first. So looking at our timeline, we would love your input. We think that practice is the place to start because it does begin with us. You can pass all the policy in the world. However, if people don't understand their own biases and their thought processes about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the policy's not going to matter, the curriculum audit's not going to matter, because they're still going to look at it through the lens of bias. So we're thinking that practice is where we want to start, but the more input we get, the better. And our next stop for 22-23 is we're going to implement our focus area. The one thing I am extremely proud of with our committee is that I don't know how to say this the right way, so I'll just say it. I don't do performative. So that means by performative, it means we're going to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and we did it, check the box, all done. We're going to do the work, and the work is hard. And I'm so proud of us as a committee because we keep moving forward. And sometimes it feels like baby steps, and for some people, we're not doing enough, quick enough, but it's deep work. It's not wide work. You have to go deep. So when I think about implementing next year, like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be hard because as a committee, we committed to increasing our own knowledge. So we're gonna have our own professional development so that we'll be able to go support our staff. So we've committed to going deep, doing the hard work, having our own agreements, hopefully having some hard conversations where we face each other to take the work further. We want to increase our parent and student voice. So I have always these big plans. I'm gonna have all the parents, all the kids, all the staff, we're gonna meet all the, nope, didn't work that way because there's only so many balls I can juggle without one of them falling. So baby steps. Next year, we were gonna add in our parent and our student voice to make sure they're heard on our committee. Thank you. I always end with this, and you saw this last year. Diversity asks, how many more of, pick who, whichever minority group you want to pick, how many more do we need to have this year than last year? Equity responds, what conditions have we created that maintain certain groups as the perpetual majority here? Inclusion asks, have everyone's ideas been heard? Justice responds, whose ideas won't be taken seriously because they aren't in the majority? And that's Lazarus and Stewart, Colorado State, that created that little blurb. Finally, in the age of disruption, COVID taught us we're in the age of disruption. The age of disruption says that all the things that we thought worked before aren't actually serving our communities. The Thomas Charter School has decided firmly that diversity, equity, and inclusion and our multi-tier systems of support work, MTSS, that's where we're gonna start in order to make sure we're serving our students' needs. So with that, are there any questions for myself or our committee? Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about the self-reflection, is it where it's the committee reflecting, writing about it, and then share with the, what does that look like?
That looks like Dr. Maria Mejorado saying, wow, I need to do the work with myself and I need to critically analyze how I perceive Dr. Addie Lucille Ellis, a woman who's identified as Black standing in front of me. Okay. How do I perceive her? What are the questions I have? What are the assumptions I make? And so you're doing the work. And that site, yep, there's some journaling, there's some conversations, there's community circles, there's groups, so that we can start to do the work more. But we need to start that with our committee and then expand out. Very good. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? I definitely want to commend our DEI committee. You know, as you see happening in other school systems right now, it's easy for this work to turn into use this book, not this book, or you're a good person, you're a bad person, right? And Natomas Charter School, one of our foundational beliefs is that teachers are the architects of learning. And we wanted to make sure as we were doing this DEI work that didn't go away, because that's actually been one of our strengths. But it really meant that we have to create structures to self-reflect, self-analyze, look at that curriculum, be willing to be a critical friend with each other, and also to open up those lines of communications with parents. So if parents have questions or if students have questions. And so I have to commend the DEI committee, because that's really where they have focused their effort is, how are we going to build our own skills as professionals, and how are we going to be more communicative around what we're doing, instead of just saying, well, you can use this book or you can't use this book, and we want to be really intentional about that. But it does mean that it's what we always do, right? We're taking a little bit harder path, but because we know it's the right path.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.
Alright, so Laura and I are presenting on transitional kindergarten to give you an update of what's going on with our process that we're working on for STAR. So transitional kindergarten, just before we start into this too much, you're going to see the words transitional kindergarten and then universal pre-kindergarten. They are the same thing. One thing that I've noticed being on the calls with the county is that universal pre-kindergarten generally is attached to a preschool program, and transitional kindergarten seems to be what's attached to school districts, but it's used interchangeably. So either way, either word means the same exact thing.
We had a whole conversation about that. Is it the same thing? Is it different words?
And it kind of depends on when you have had it come to your school, if you're already formed and have a program or don't have a program, but generally it is separated with a preschool program versus having it attached to the regular full school system. So in looking at our vision for what we're trying to do with transitional kindergarten or universal pre-kindergarten is to focus on developing the experience of our students through communication. So thinking about their communication with each other, student to student, and then student to adult and vice versa. Group interactions, this is where they build their friendships, learn how to have a friendship, learn how to share and interact with each other. You might think that comes naturally, and it does not for a lot. You have to teach those skills, and that's what transitional kindergarten, they're really trying to focus on that part. And then social emotional learning. What are your feelings? How do you describe those feelings? So it's not, I just have a tantrum on the floor. It's, I'm upset because of this, and then what can they do with that? And then school readiness, so they're prepared when they go into kindergarten, because the rigor over the last, since I've been in education, so last about 15 years, when I came in, kindergarten was very much like what TK is now and is going to be, and kindergarten is much more like what you saw in first grade in the past. So the rigor keeps going up, and they're able to do that. But that foundational level of what they get in TK is super important, and it really leads to their success as they go up to the grade levels. And it really is a 2-year kinder program, which our students have really succeeded with. So moving into our delivery model, currently we have what's considered a full day transitional kinder, which you're probably like, wait, but they get out a little early. You can see they go from 8:30 to 1:30. But if they are over, I believe it's 3.5 hours, you're considered full day. And then our students currently have access to before and after school care at SCAPE, which goes from 7:30 to 6 o'clock. We do have full inclusion with our TK students. They have our inclusive ed department, they go to our specials program. Everything that our other students get, they will get, and they will continue to get as we expand. So our future model, we're looking to add 3 more TK classes. We are dependent on having more classroom space because we are currently maxed out of everything at STAR.
And so that's where some of that grant money we were talking about will hopefully help fund that and we can get approved for that. And then we have the grant, the ELOP, and that money is going to help us expand on our state program to include a academic portion, which our TK students would also be a part of, or they have the access to it if they would like to, I should say. And then moving forward, you can see our plan started from the 2019-20 school year and it goes on up to 2024-25. So next year we will still be just one TK class. The following year we're looking at 2. So we would have an AM PM class while we're really hoping our building is being built. So then in 2024-25 we could expand to a full 4 classes of transitional kindergarten, which would then be the new entry point for STAR going into kindergarten.
Okay.
Oh, and on the very bottom, there was one more thing on there. I forgot we merged slides. It says escape enrollment. So you can kind of see about how many students are going in there. We have 24 students in the class. And then it goes up each year with the number of students, but we expand state based on the enrollment. So.
One little piece I'll add before you go past this graph is, historically speaking, we've been receiving between 100 and 120 applications for TK each year. And realize though, historically, it was for a very short date range, basically September to December was the child's birthday that had turned 5 in that time period. Over the next few years, that's expanding by 2 months every year until is it 24-25, is that when it becomes year round, as long as you're 4 by August?
4 by the beginning of August?
I think it's 4 by August 1st is what it becomes. So I have a feeling we'll have no trouble filling these 96 spots.
And I would also say potty training is a portion of what the things on the meetings every time you're on them. That is a big thing that's in there. So bathrooms are definitely a piece that will be in those classrooms. Very important part. Just ask the teachers.
All right, so I get the boring parts. Part of, board members, you all saw our TK plan that we got to write for this, is looking at community engagement and how are we learning from our stakeholders to what the needs are. So we've been bringing up in different parent meetings, sharing information with you guys, and making sure that we're getting the feedback and the needs from families as we're developing this plan. As also a part of this plan is to ensure that we are providing teachers that are ready to support TK students. Because currently the credential that teachers get for a multiple subject runs kindergarten through 8th grade if you have a multiple subject credential. And at this point, in order to teach TK, you need additional early childhood education units that are added on. The Teacher Credentialing Commission is working on what a new credential would look like. They'll have a TK through 8 credential, and then it's looking like a TK through I think 2nd grade credential that they're still formulating. And so looking forward, as we're adding to our courses, our classes available, we're going to need more teachers with that TK certification. Right now, it's surprisingly very few of the teachers with multiple subjects that have that additional authorization. And so we have been working with local partners and working with our new teachers and intern teachers. So we've been working with Fortune School of Education, Sacramento County Office, Yolo Solano County Office, and the UC Davis School of Education. And so in this process, we will continue to work with them. And actually, Sacramento County Office and Fortune School of Education are writing a grant. I think we should find out this week, or maybe beginning of next week if they got it. And we've joined the consortium of charter schools that are working with them to secure some spots for those new TK credentials. We're pretty excited to be working with all of our partners in the surrounding counties. Professional development, so we need to train even if they're existing teachers, right? And this could be our paraeducators, our teachers that are working with TK, our state staff, our administrators, making sure that everyone understands these little teeny tiny people and how best to work with them. And so some of the ways in the report, you see there's like an extensive list of all the different things that we're doing. But the major things is, we're going to be doing coaching and mentoring, working with the staff, using internal and external workshops that we're going on. We train all of our Star Academy teachers in the GLAD strategies. And so that works with English learners, hands-on, chanting and pictures, and it's super fun. And as well as getting them trained in MTSS, responsive classroom, all of those things where you're building a community, getting them to understand each other as a community and how to work best. So we'll continue with that. Next one, please. With this, we are going to need to look at what is our TK curriculum and really make that super official. We have a current TK curriculum that we've been utilizing, and the TK teacher works in concert with the kindergarten teachers. Right now at STAR, we have 4 kindergarten teachers and 1 TK teacher, and so they work and they collaborate as a grade level. And so what we've been doing this year, Amy's been great working with Allison Perry, who's our current TK teacher, and Jessica Benz to review our curriculum and then looking at other options. So we'll be doing a pilot next year of looking at some more structured elements for the TK classrooms, and then hopefully we'll do the curriculum adoption in 23-24 once we've had a chance to try some of them out. All right, go ahead. Next one. Assessments. We have some teacher designed assessments that we'll use, and that's important, especially as you're going through and doing formative assessments and kind of progress checks. But we'll be utilizing the Bergantz early childhood screeners, which is something that we currently use, and it's also by Curriculum Associates who we use for iReady, and so it's research-based and vetted. So next. Oh, I like that picture of the kid on the tricycle because that's a learning ability. It's really funny when you're out there at the beginning of the year and they're just learning. It's so fun. Okay, sorry. Cute kids. Facilities. So we do need to expand. So I think Joe has talked to you about, there's a dirt patch out in front of Star Academy. So that would be built out for the TK classrooms. Just like kindergarten, they have to have a bathroom that's inside the classroom. They're going to need their own little playground area, some cementing area. And so all of that is written into the proposal that we have and working with facilities. So we need additional square feet, all of that. And so we'll end up with 4 TK classrooms, 1 inclusive education classroom, and then we'll probably have to have more space for the after school program, the SCAPE program, as that group expands. Next one. And that's it. There's the cuties with their umbrellas. I love going to kindergarten and TK. It's my happy place. All my little buddies there. Yes. So any questions about the TK plan?
So I have a question. So since we'll be growing into 4 TK classrooms, would those kids be transitioning into kindergarten then?
Yeah, so effectively TK becomes the new kindergarten. And that's actually going to be district-wide in Natomas. So all the Natomas Unified School District, same challenge that we're having with facilities. But once facilities can be identified, their goal is for all of their elementary campuses that TK becomes the primary entry point.
Yes, that's going to be interesting.
And that's a global change that's happening in California, and so.
Currently the other 2 charter schools are planning on just staying with kindergarten. They have facilities constraints as well that I think they're having. We're fortunate we have the empty spot of land that allows us to expand really easily, and they don't have that luxury on their campuses right now.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you. This is an
Thank you,
important
guys.
requirement
Yes,
for the
this
TK
is an
plan
important
process
part.
and
Yes,
presenting
thank
to
you
the board.
We have all the
Thank you very
exciting
much.
And I'm back. I know you missed me. Here we go. Because why not? Okay. So I have an update on our EL task force. When I came back to Natomas Charter, I think 5 years ago or so, I started working with our English learners and, we'll go back. And really planning out, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan to build our staff's skills and strategies for working with English learners. Because for a long time at Natomas Charter School, we had very few. And as time has passed, we've gotten more and more, which I think is awesome, because we want that diversity, we want that experience, we want those languages. You see what happens in our seal of biliteracy, which when we get kids speaking multiple languages, it's the best for everyone. So we've been working on this. So this is our 3rd year of the EL task force. The first year we kind of spent learning about all of the different parts and the newer EL standards and everything. And this year we really got to dive in. So, okay, next one. Sorry, this is my passion area. So we have EL task force members. Some of them were here earlier and didn't want to stay later with this presentation. But we have them from all different parts of Natomas Charter School. And I was really excited because when I started the EL task force, I believe we had 10 people. And the first meeting of the year, we had 22 people that were coming to check it out. So I thought that was pretty sweet. So we have a lot of people that are interested in wanting to learn. And this spans from school psychologists to paraeducators to teachers to support staff. Viva! And so it's great to look at it from all different angles. Okay, next one. So you might say, why? Why, Laura? Why do you need a task force for EL? We know you love it. Why is this important? So as I said, we've been increasing in our number of students that we have that are English learners. We have 17 plus languages in any given year that are spoken by students at our school. And so it's really important that we build that into our diversity, and we have students coming on campus that are feeling very proud of their home languages and sharing that with others, and not having that be a hidden part of them. Our Lcap goals are all Lcaps are set up to ensure that you're supporting your EL learners, and all 3 of our Lcap goals touch on that. Might have something to do with the fact that I helped write it, and so it's very important. And then also looking at our student data. We have our English learners are performing at a lower level than we see our the other subgroups, or not all the subgroups, but the other chunk of students. And so one of my big pushes is that we just need to get those up. We need to build their skills. Okay, next one, please. So what we did this year with the EL task force is I got them all this lovely book, EL Excellence Every Day. Which is a book that really goes into what are we looking for, what are the brain function behind our English learners and learning different languages, and what are the best strategies. And so it has different sections that teachers can do just hands-on. And so we broke it down and we did a book study as we went throughout the year and had discussions and had teachers and staff members trying out the different strategies and talking about, oh, I've done this in my classroom, that worked, I've done this, and really just working through the information. So there's how to engage your students, so looking at getting them discussing, interacting in their classes, how to support them as they're doing the reading and the writing, and then how to really apply all of these strategies in lesson planning and working with students. So it was really, really fun, really interesting reading. And so we digested it all as a team, tried things out, shared it with our peers, here and there, different strategies. Next one, please. And so what we're doing is we're making a plan for how are we going to get this out to all staff members. And so we are on May 27th. It's our all staff PD day. And we are having an ed camp if anybody wants to come join. Education camp is kind of like an unconference, and so where people go together in rooms and they discuss and they share ideas. So it's not a presentation, it's just a discussion because the room is smarter than the individual. And so the EL task force has said that they're going to have 3 different sessions that they want to do where they're sitting and they're talking and they're sharing different strategies, and then they're looking at how can we start implementing these specific strategies throughout the year. as we go through next year. And they kind of said, these are the ones that if everybody could just do these couple of things, next year, the kids are gonna see that same consistency in their whole life and start to learn. So we're really excited about that. And then, I started jumping into that. So we're building the teacher leaders. So the EL task force and getting them to be leads and start sharing their professional development with other staff. And then integrating that into our committee and sharing it. And then next year, so exciting, we're taking the TOSA position that was a general TOSA from earlier this year, and we're turning it into an English language learner TOSA position. And we've hired a fabulous new team member, Alyssa Ortiz-Khan, and she's going to be joining us, and she's been an EL TOSA before and a bilingual educator, and she's super excited. So she'll be joining the teaching and learning team and then working with all 5 academies to help build our skills so that we can make sure that we're giving our English learners everything that they need. Okay, next one, I think is the questions. That's the last one? Oh, I didn't have a question.
You can make something up.
I know. I was having fun with Canva.
I was gonna say, I love your slideshow.
Yeah. I know, I'm tired of the NCS one.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to Canva for everything. So, any questions?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's super exciting if you ever want to talk about it.
I really want to commend Laura because in the 5 years that she's come back, you really highlighted the needs of English learners and really highlighted supports for our teachers and staff. And so bringing on this EL TOSA was really her vision and her excitement. And having spoken to the person, I'm very excited for this person to join our team as well.
And she's also a star parent as well.
TK.
Yeah, and she started coming to our ELACs, our English Learner Advisory Committee, like at the beginning of the year, even though her child is not an English learner, just because she's super passionate about it. And so we've been talking EL for a long time. And then she applied and it was great. The hiring committee was excited. So so I know the passion there.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Dr. Wood.
Yes.
COVID's still here. Okay, moving on to the next slide. I'll make it quick. So a quick little COVID update. Yes, COVID is still with us, but we are doing amazing things, even in the midst of the tail end of the global pandemic. So as the board saw in their email, we won as a school. We were recognized for the California Pivotal Practice Award. This is this year's version of the California Distinguished Schools Award, and it's really focused on how schools that had documented innovative practices during the pandemic school year. So we're supposed to be getting a little flag that we can put up on a flagpole, a little lanyard, so it's kind of exciting. Over spring break, we took a group of amazing middle schoolers to Washington, D.C. And because, COVID is the age of disruption, we had canceled flights, a plane that smelled like smoke, and 2 buses that broke down. But the kids rocked it the entire time, and they were leaders, and it was actually very, very cool to watch our kids in Washington, D.C. because there were some other schools there, and I'm just going to say they weren't Natomas charter schools. And our kids did a great job. We also brought back a big day of giving last week, so I think we had about 1,000 people here on campus for our multi-academy open house. And honestly, our success criteria was just that it occurred this year, and it occurred, and we raised over $15,000 that particular day as well. So it's a very generous community. And then as the student was mentioning earlier today, our Leading Edge Girls Soccer team went on to the championships. Boys did too. And the Leading Edge Girls Soccer team actually won the championship game against I think it was Leroy Green, who we played, and during penalty kicks, because it was 0-0 the entire game. So it was pretty amazing. And they had to play on the Natomas High School football, like the big soccer field. So it was like there was a lot more running than they were used to. And then last week we had Educator Appreciation Week, which was amazing. All our parent groups really put together a lot of heartwarming activities for our teachers. So it was a nice week. So our approach to COVID continues the same: humility, community, kindness, and conviction. Next slide. And as you're probably hearing in the news, case rates are starting to creep up. We're seeing it in our data here in Sacramento County. It's much worse on the East Coast than it is here, but we are starting to see a little bit of an uptick. The Public Health Department is predicting a summer surge, probably not unlike last year's summer surge. They are seeing about a 30% increase in cases, but fortunately hospitalizations are not rising at the same level. I think that has to do with just this, we have a fairly strong vaccination rate here in California, and quite a few people have already had COVID before, so there's a natural built-in immunity. Moving on to the next slide. And we see in our own cases here, we were kind of just during that spring break time hovering around 0 cases per week. But last week, we bumped up to about 8 cases total. We had 7 students and 1 staff member. And this, as of today, we've already had, I think we have 4 cases over the weekend for students and 1 staff member case over the weekend. Testing continues, testing. We're handing out tests left and right. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Move on to the next slide. Vaccinations, we're not seeing dramatic changes in our vaccinations month over month just because people aren't necessarily needing to turn in vaccination cards. But on this campus, we're around 75–80% of students being fully vaccinated, depending on which student group you're looking at. It's a little lower at STAR. We're around, I think STAR's around 50% being vaccinated, and PACT's lower, but PACT is a homeschool program, so families haven't necessarily had a reason to submit vaccination records. So we're fairly sure PACT is underreported. And then staff-wise, we're around 98% of our staff being fully vaccinated. Next slide. So looking ahead to the summer next year, so while we were on spring break, the plan for vaccination requirements for schools changed. So at this point, all of the draft requirements that were being talked about, like potentially having, all 7th through 12th graders have to be fully vaccinated when there was full FDA approval, or Senator Pan had a bill, I think, making a legal requirement in January. All of those have been paused, and the plan right now is to sort of wait and see where vaccinations go. There's some talk of a second type of vaccine being developed, like a multivariant vaccine, but kind of waiting to see, 23, 24, if there's new vaccine development. At this point, that public health order that says that all workers on school campuses have to be vaccinated or test weekly is still in effect with no expiration date. So we're kind of planning and in talking to the school district, they're planning for testing to continue throughout the summer and into next school year, because we have to have that testing in place for the workers that are not fully vaccinated. And then in terms of testing, as I mentioned, the district's planning they have that morning testing clinic that they do for all students in the district, including charter students. That's going to continue through the summer and into next school year. On our campus, we're planning on testing through the final week of school. And then we actually had an opportunity to order a bunch of at-home test kits through the California Department of Public Health and the CDC for free. So we actually have 2 new pallets of COVID tests that have arrived. We've got a lot of COVID tests. So we'll be working on sending those home, with workers who are not vaccinated so that they can test regularly and submit results, and then having them available for families as well. And then there is a legislative plan or a legislative bill in progress, SB 1479, that will still require all of us to have COVID testing plans. You don't necessarily have to have ongoing COVID testing going on, but the idea is that we have to have a plan in place for if there's a spike in cases. So this is kind of one of the reasons why we're stockpiling a little bit. That's going to be part of our testing plan is, we will have some tests that we can disseminate out as needed. We're still partnering with the school district and stuff.
What's the expiration date on that?
That's a great question. Christy was actually looking into that. She was unwrapping the pallets. They came on Friday, so we're very early in the process, but hopefully a couple months. For most part, it's been around 6 to 12 months, yeah. Any questions? COVID? All right. I have the next one as well. It's our enrollment report. So, we are at May, second to last month of the school year. So we're at the point in the school year where we're not enrolling any new students. So you'll see in our enrollment report, we're off by a couple of students here or there compared to CBEDS, but that's just because we're not in an enrollment process right now. As I shared at the last board meeting, though, we still have very healthy waiting lists. We're not seeing a whole lot of movement on our waiting list. Things are starting to solidify. So we'll be sort of curious to see what happens during the summer. Right now, PACT is actually, I want to say PACT is starting the year with potentially 200 students, which would be above where we started this year. But we staffed around 170 and we'll adjust staffing, once we actually see children showing up. And then VLA right now is actually starting the year with a pretty healthy freshman class. I think they're projecting about 100 to 110. So one of the projects that they're working on is, doing some summer marketing work to increase enrollment as well in that particular program. Sort of see where the dust settles on enrollment.
Can I mention, you can see for our budget column, it's like 1900 where CBEDS was a little bit lower. We filed our P2 attendance report. That's the report that we are funded on. And so I'm happy to see that we made it over what we were projecting. So thanks to all the families and stuff that we have, our absence rate is not as low as some of the surrounding districts and stuff too. So we're about 96% and we budgeted at 95. So.
And that's really, our thanks to our families and to all the staff members that have helped with short-term independent studies. We had periods of time where our attendance, our actual kids in seats was like 80%, which in January, we've never had that low before. But all of the short-term independent study helped to make that up, which is good because right now we're not seeing much of a legislative fix coming. So, yeah. All right, next piece, I actually have a little physical handout for all of you guys. So each year we do our annual compensation study. As the board knows, one of our Lcap/WASP goals is to expand organizational capacity. And within expanding organizational capacity is our goal of attracting and retaining fully qualified staff. So as part of one of our strategies for doing this is our compensation study. And so this year we attacked our compensation study slightly different. About 80% of our school budget is salary and benefits. And so one of the first things we wanted to look at is resources. What resources do we have to work with? So when you're looking at this particular document, probably go back to this first tab that you're looking at on the top, this is really looking at our school compared to 24 school districts and 10 charter schools. So there's if you will, we have a comparison set of 34. And what we're looking at here are our funding sources, our actual LCFF funding, which makes up the majority of our school revenues. So as you look across the columns here, you're going to see, LEA type, enrollment, UPC is unduplicated count percentage. And then you're going to see some LCFF numbers. So as the board probably remembers, we get something called the LCFF base for every single student that enrolls in our school. It's slightly different if they're elementary students or if they're high school students, if they're middle school students, but we get a flat dollar amount for every student. If that student is an unduplicated count student, which means that they qualify for free and reduced lunch, they're homeless, foster youth, or an English learner, we get an additional 25% on top of that. So if we, what was that? 20%, sorry. So if it was a student that, let's say we were generating $10,000 per student, for a student who's unduplicated count student, we get $12,000, right? And then if the school system has over 55% of the students qualifying as an unduplicated count student, they get additional funds called a concentration grant on top of it. So if you look at our first comparison school district at the top, that's Benicia Unified, you'll see that all those dollar amounts together equal, 43 million, it's 42.84 million. And then we divided it out by the most recent publicly available enrollment number. And so you can see that their average enrollment is 9,400 per student, right? So what I want to draw the board's attention down to is towards you'll see that there's this black bar. Just below the black bar a little bit, you're going to see Natomas Charter School. And over to the right, you see that Natomas Charter School on average receives $8,922.49 per student. And so as you look in that column, what you're going to see is a high degree of variability. And so where I really want to draw the board's attention down to is to the highlighted yellow boxes. So as we look through this document together, there's a lot of data here, and it's easy to get a little twirly-eyed when you're looking at it. Just anchor yourselves in the yellow boxes, because that's kind of where the important factors are. So what you'll see is that if you compare Natomas Charter School to all of the schools, we actually receive almost 12% less in funding than the other schools in our comparison group, which works out to just over $1,100 per student on average, viewers are receiving. If you compare us to just the charter schools, it's about 9% less, which is about $863. All of that really goes back to our unduplicated count percentage. So if you look in the overall analysis, the average school has an unduplicated count of 45.27%. Natomas Charter School, our current unduplicated count is 27.8. So that difference is really what's making up the bulk of the difference in terms of that revenue difference. If you look at Natoma's charter, we get $89,2249, so $8,900, let's say, in per pupil revenues. Just below us is NP3. NP3 gets $9,900, so figure $1,000. The main difference is that difference in the unduplicated count. So if our unduplicated count population was the same percentage as NP3s, we automatically would see $1.9 million in additional funding. So that the importance of people filling out the free and reduced lunch application, or filling out their English learner information, or letting us know that maybe they're in a doubled up situation where there's multiple families living together. All of those pieces of information actually are very important to our overall school funding. So you might have seen that when you filled out your, not your intent to return, but your registration packet for this current school year. We put in an alternative income question where there was a little drop-down menu and how to choose your general family income level, because that data is being used to identify students who might qualify for a free or reduced lunch, because it will help with this unduplicated count percentage. So that sort of lets us know that, Natoma's Charter School as a whole, we're not receiving average funding. We're actually receiving below average funding at this moment in time. But that could change if our demographics change. So if you go to the next tab, this is really looking at our compensation study for our general education staff. And what we focused in here are teachers and administrators. And the type of administrators are really principals. So looking at the principals of our school. Same sort of thing, there's the same schools to the left. There's basically a mini box of enrollment and funding. It's a mini version of the first tab. And then you see teacher salary and administrator salary, and we have beginning, middle, and end. So we basically, Ziva is the one who did a lot of this work. So she would look at an organization's salary schedule and find the first year salary, the last year salary, and then sort of the midpoint salary. And so once again, if you go down to the yellow boxes at the very bottom, on a compensation study, districts are very different from each other. So it's a little hard to say it's a direct comparison. So we do the best that we can. But what it means is there's a little bit of a variability. And so if you're within plus or minus 5% of average, you're basically at average. And so if you look at our teacher salary, we start at 4.3% above the average, then we sort of drop to 5% below the average, and then we sort of go to 1.33. So I would say that net overall, our salaries are pretty much at average, is what that means. It gets a little better when you compare Natoma's charter school with the other charter schools. We're a little bit, it's a more defined average. Where we have a little bit more discrepancy is in our site administrators. So these would be our principal salaries. You can see that we're kind of in the neighborhood of 13 to 12% below the average. That's partially due to the school size. So if you look one more column over, you'll see school size for all schools is 657.59. Natoma's charter is, our average school size is 387.6, but that is as low as 100 for VLA and as high as 750 for PFA. So we have some variability there. We try to offset that by having additional principal positions. So we have the 2 associate principal positions to kind of help and get our numbers like closer to 300. But that's what sort of drives this. But as we look at additional dollars being available that we can transition to salary and benefits, this might be an area that we consider focusing on as a board, as our administrator salaries. I'm going to move us to the next page. So page 3 is very similar to the one previous, but it's looking at our certificated special education staff. So ed specialists, speech language pathologists, and school psychologists. Same sort of structure. If you look down to those yellow boxes, you can see in the case of ed specialists, we actually start off pretty high. We start about 10 to 15% above average. And then we kind of even out. Speech language pathologists, we start about 4 or 5% above average and then kind of even out. And then psychologists, we start out about 8 to 5% above average and then kind of even out. So I would say that our certificated special education salaries are actually very competitive. This would be, an area where I think we could feel like we have some confidence and have some good structures here. We go to tab 4, or page 4, this is looking at our health and welfare benefits. And this really is where it's comparing apples to pears when you start looking at what every organization offers. So organizations tend to offer one of 2 structures. Either they offer sort of a tiered structure, like there's employee, employee plus 1, and family, or they offer something called composite. So if you're like Benicia and you offer composite, that means everyone gets $932 regardless of how many dependents that they're covering. Whereas if you look at the next one down, center, there's different dollar amounts based on if you are employee plus one, or family. Natoma's charter, we use the tiered approach where we have different amounts. And so if you look down at those yellow cells, you can see that we actually provide very nice benefits for employee only. We're about 30% above average. And that's because as a school, we've always had a commitment that we will ensure that there's at least one plan that fully covers the employee for health benefits, medical, and dental all together, or vision. I knew I was missing one. Medical, dental, and vision all together. We become a little bit closer to average when you go to employee plus one. I mean, we're better than other charter schools, but we're basically at average for schools and the school districts and charters mixed together. And then an area where we're definitely different is in that family area. And so a second area that we might consider as funds are becoming available is maybe looking at adding some more money into the family plan. Currently we offer $1,050. Maybe that moves up to $1,300 or $1,500 to help those employees. We do have quite a few employees that are making use of the family benefits coverage.
This doesn't have a comparison of our costs, right?
Like the cost.
Yeah, so this is what we provide.
This is what we provide. We haven't done a premium study in a while, but typically our group has been actually on the more cost-effective side. We're in a pool with other charter schools, and charter schools tend to have younger employees than school districts. But that could be something that we can.
Right.
Yeah,
In
because
the last 2 years, I just want, like this last open enrollment we had in 2022, we got a rate pass. So they kept the rates the same. And then the previous year, it was below 5% increase for one of the highest increases on there. And then the year before that was still single digit increases where some of the surrounding district, they belong to different groups, have been seeing double digits.
So, okay, so then I guess what I'm saying is this might be skewed a little bit, because if our costs are a little lower, it's okay that we're a little bit under in terms of what we cover.
You're right, yeah, and there's like so many variables, is that
Exactly,
right?
Like which plans do they have and stuff. And
Yeah,
if you've been following what was happening in Sac City, they were posting some of their their annual dollar amounts, and it was like $30,000 for one plan or $7,000 for the other plan. It was hugely different.
yeah.
One of the things, because when you do a study and when you actually look at other companies' plans and things like that, because of the variables are, plans are pretty rich, and all of schools are, but ours tend to be. When we look at this next, I want to get a committee representing the teachers and non-instructional staff to really look at it, because it's a huge responsibility to compare each and every plan and compare it to the other plan proposals and stuff. So that's a big project that we should kind of look at, just to know that we're doing our due diligence and make sure that everybody's happy. But it would take a while to get that committee done.
Yeah, sure.
That could be some work that we look at. So in the last 2 pages, we have a legal obligation to be looking at our executive compensation each year. And so this is the superintendent executive director one. You can see when compared to average, the current executive director salary is below our comparison groups. However, this is fairly representative of us being a small school. As you see in these organizations, there's also a high degree of variability in the compensation. If you're curious about the blank cells, those are organizations that have not provided us their information after Ms. Hone asking you many, many times. So one thing that we are very proud of in our process going through this every year is just actually how transparent we are. We're very transparent as an organization. Always happy to share our data. And then the last tab is the compensation for CBO, which is also on the executive compensation schedule as well. Similar sort of comparisons as looking at the looking at the executive director superintendent salary. That being said, also somewhat reflective of just being a small school with 1,900 students. The good news is based on all of our budget documents and resources we're getting right now, we're being told to project about a 5% COLA for the coming school year, which means that we're going to be able to fully fund every step and level increase that we already have scheduled. So all employees will be getting their scheduled raises this year. That so our 5% COLA is about $700,000 that's coming in. The step and level adjustments might be around $400,000. We also have a 2% increase in the employer contribution for CalSTRS, and that's about another $200,000. So most of our 5% COLA that we have CalPERS and STRS, most of our 5% COLA that we have coming in is really going towards, step and column adjustments, or step and level adjustments, I should say, and dealing with the increased rates in employer contributions. We are hearing from, the various entities that we work with in the legislature that we could see higher than a 5% COLA, 6%, 7%. There's also been talks about changing the way we're calculating unduplicate account students. Maybe there's different grade span adjustments. So once the legislature actually passes the budget in June, we'll know what exactly we're getting. But one of the things that we'll be looking at is, is there a way that we can pass those financial resources back to our employees? Because, while we are very excited to fund all of our step and level adjustments, we do recognize that, just like all of us in this room, our employees are dealing with 7 and 8% inflation. So, if you're getting a 2 to 4% raise, that's great, but that's still behind, what you might have been making in a previous year once you factor in inflation. And so we're being very cognizant of that. At the same time, California's revenues are largely based on personal income taxes, which are largely based on the investment portfolios of very wealthy people. And, if you're turning on the news right now and you're seeing what's happening on the stock market, I don't know how long this great revenue stream is going to be really lasting. And so in a couple of weeks, Anita and I will be going to the May Revise. There's a big statewide conference that basically is done around the May Revise. And these are some pieces that we're going to be listening for is, what is the actual COLA going to be for this coming school year? Can we translate any of that into financial resources for our employees? And then what's the long-term impact? Are we able to look at, ongoing raises, or should we really be financially conservative and think about one-time bonuses? And then we can sort of see where the economy takes us a year from now and see if we can translate those into ongoing raises. So we're kind of, we're very fortunate here. I know I'm part of another group of charter school executive directors, and that most of them are dealing with declining enrollment and declining wait lists. And so they're not even able to have these conversations. So I feel very fortunate that we are able to have the conversation, but also recognizing that, our employees are facing inflation, and we want to try to make sure we, are still able to ensure that they have a living wage as well. So moving forward, we'll be looking at those pieces. We'll also be, kind of digging deeper into the compensation study. We don't have non-instructional hourly here. We also have, we need to really look at our director positions along with our social emotional counselor positions as well. So those will be some things we'll be tackling in the future. Any questions on compensation study? You know me, spreadsheet pivot table. I get very excited.
Do you think we have more unduplicated kids then?
I have a feeling we have some underreporting going on, especially the last couple of years because lunch has been free. You haven't had to complete that. As we talked about in a previous board meeting, the expansion of our ELOP program means that anyone who qualifies for free or reduced lunch is going to actually be able to attend SCAPE for free. So we're hoping that incentivizes more participation in the program. We also, in our charter renewal that's going before the NUSD trustees on Wednesday night, we do have a new preference in our lottery around the unduplicated account. So I think that would also incentivize more applications. Westlake has an unduplicated account preference, and in talking to their leadership, they said that has actually helped significantly with raising their unduplicated account numbers. And we know from working with Westlake and MP3 that we actually have the same, if not greater, support structures in place right now. So this might be a situation where we actually are able to bring in revenues, but not necessarily have a lot more costs associated with it, which means that we might be able to translate that into overall increased wages for our employees.
We did some of the students that left our program from last year to this year. There was about 90-ish or so that were free and reduced that left, but our final CalPADS numbers was, I think the unduplicated count was 524. And so we gained about 20 from other new students coming in. So if those, we would have seen an increase if the other families hadn't transitioned out and stuff too. So you just never know.
All right, so the last items for tonight, we have 2 policies for the board for first reading. So our first policy is board policy 13. It says 1311 up there, but it's 1313 on the, just FYI, I'm just look at that. It's 1313. So board policy 1313, which is focused on civil discourse. So this particular policy, a little context on how this policy came to be. As we've navigated the last 2 years of the pandemic, sadly, just like you see on the news, we've experienced some community members coming onto our campus and not always showing civility or conversing in a civil manner. And so, as a school, we have some legal responsibilities and protections that we have to have, especially for our employees and for the students that are here on campus. So in this particular policy, it talks a little bit about our process for basically having employees removed, or not employees, having visitors removed from campus for 14 days and working with law enforcement on that. It also has a process in here for how we're going to navigate, demeaning or harassing digital communications. Unfortunately, since at least the last 5 years, I know we've lost 2 to 3 teachers due to harassing and demeaning digital communications. And so what this does is it codifies and formalizes a process around that where, when an employee receives those communications, a supervisor will review it and make the determination as to whether or not there's a complaint in there that we legally need to follow up on. But to also, indicate to the person sending the message that this type of communication has to stop, or, any future communication will be only in person so that we can make sure that our employees, one thing I've really learned in speaking to some of our employees who have received these is it's pretty psychologically destructive, to receive an email that says you're a horrible teacher, or you're a horrible this, or you're a horrible that. And, I think it's really important that we do, make a real statement to our employees that no, we will have your backs and we will protect you. And part of how we're doing that is through a process, which is really clear that, if that person sending that message has a complaint or a concern, we want to hear it. And we recognize that, not everyone's perfect and that we're working on things, right? And that the person sending the message has a First Amendment right. But at the same time that, there's a process and procedure for which we're talking through those complaints or investigating those complaints, and it creates that structure as well. So any questions about our civil discourse policy?
So is it in person because people sometimes they say things?
We have found that a lot of, similar to what as the adage goes, when behind a keyboard, people say things in writing that they would never say in person. Also, the way that the laws are really structured, we actually have more protection when the harassing communication is done in person than when it's done digitally. So, when digital communication really is a privilege. And so it's kind of, if someone is not able to adhere to that privilege of emailing the teacher, then we need to transition to having in-person meetings where maybe, supervisor can be present so we can talk through whatever that is. And then, if that person is, coming into the meeting and they're, using profanity or using derogatory language, then, we can shut down the meeting, or, if we have to go to, the 14-day sort of stay away process is when, visitors are on campus and maybe they're physically threatening employees or they're threatening their livelihood or something like that. Any other questions about civil discourse? Okay, so that policy has been reviewed by Young Mini Court, our attorneys, and so it will be back for a second read and approval next board meeting. And then our second policy is absences and excuses for classroom-based attendance. So as a 30-year-old charter school, this is one of those policies that everyone's like, yeah, we have that somewhere. And then as Eva and I were digging, we're like, oh, we have it in our handbook. We don't have a formal board policy on this. So working with our legal counsel, this was something that they suggested we put together. It really just outlines, basically how we document when students are truant, what is our notification process with families with letters. It also documents, what we do when people don't show up the first few days of school, there's sort of no-shows, and documents how we handle work when individuals have excessive independent study. Because sometimes we do have people that say, I want independent study for the next 6 months. And we have to say, no, we can do 10 days. And so this sort of documents, what is that process where you could potentially, we could go through a disenrollment procedure if they're not coming to school. So questions about attendance policy?
Executive Director comments.
Been talking for a lot. Okay. So 3 quick ones. We do have 2 board meetings in June, so you get to be here twice in June. Yay! June 13th and June 20th. If for some reason your schedule doesn't allow, please let Ziva know and we can make sure we have a forum. Between now and June 10th, which is our last day of school year, we have quite a few graduation, promotion, and performance events. So in your email on Friday, you got sort of a little schedule list. If you can sign up for the graduation and promotion ones, that actually be very, very helpful. We'd like 2 to 3 board members at each one, and we will have you involved in an active role probably. This year, the 8th grade promotions for leading edge MPFA are going to be on campus in the amphitheater like we've done before. PACT is going to be in the Benvenuti, and then we have a joint high school graduation for VLA and PFA together at Memorial Auditorium. So that will be new for us. But Kevin and Seema and Kathy and the team have already been down, so we're scouting. MP3 graduates before us, so we're gonna also go watch their graduation since they use the same facility.
Yeah.
And see what ideas we can glean from that. And then last, Ollie mentioned that our cast of In the Heights was nominated for the Rito Moreno Awards. That's actually a really big deal. Like if they win that at all, they move on to basically the high school equivalent of the Tonys.
Wow.
So it's, our kids are competing against, like the school where Robin Williams went. It's like it's a different level of competition. So they had to put together a 15-minute reel. They have to do a 7-minute medley performance down there in San Jose. So if you happen to see In the Heights, it was a beautiful production.
Yeah, it was.
And so it's really cool to see the kids being, really shown the love by the community for that. And then Ollie, as he mentioned, was nominated as lead actor. So, we have been in the middle of a really hard 2-year pandemic. We have had to implement a civil discourse policy. But in the midst of all of that, we have our girls, we have the powerhouse leading edge girls that keep winning all the district championships. Our boys are really strong too. We have this, amazing artists on our campus. So, we have a lot of really great things going on. I mean, the Jogathon at Star Academy brought in $18,000.
Oh my God.
Almost $20,000, and it was like, you would have thought it was like Run to Feed the Hungry. I mean, it was a ton of people there, right? They were very excited.
I just want to say, the bank thinks that I'm laundering money.
So, we're doing some really amazing things in our school community right now that we should all be really proud of. And they unfortunately showed me how to use the sign computer on Friday, so I now know how to put out on the sign out there. So you might see them announce on the digital sign as you drive through. They should have shown me how to use the sign.
The sign is in trouble.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got for executive comments.
Board of Director comments. I have a question.
Yes.
Comment, question. The May 6th program, where the fundraising to help bring children from Mexico here for medical treatment or burn victims, is that an annual thing? Or has it just happened this
Do you
year?
want to talk about it? It's Louise's
Yeah.
project.
Yes. In Gareth Love, in case.
Yeah.
Mr. Actually, PFA. So that actually was a senior project. All of that, were you there on Saturday?
No, I didn't know about it. Otherwise I would. That's why I'm sorry I missed it.
It was a senior project that Luis Fernando, Luis Gomez Flores put on, that Ali actually alluded to in his speech, which he put performers together. And the first half was kind of seniors from PFA, and the second half was mariachi band and dancers and Luis himself, who is going to be a professional singer, and there's no doubt about that in my mind. He is amazing. He partners with Heroes, was the association you spoke about. He's partnered with them before, but I think he ended up raising around $3,500 for them on Saturday night. I would love that to be something that continues as a piece of legacy, but it really was Luis's project, so it would have to be see if any seniors next year would be willing to pick up on that. But it was very well received by the community.
Well, I'm so sorry I missed that. When I realized, I saw the posters and it was like, oh, in 2 days, I'm going, oh no, Mother's Day weekend, all that. So anyway, so that was one question. The second question I had, the open house was amazing. And I think it was great because my son got to go visit, and hang out with his friends and all that, but we got to go to the classroom, right? And talk to the teachers and, see what's coming up next and all this. But one thing that I thought would be nice to have, since we can go talk to the teachers, a number of parents and we're talking about college already and we're worried about all that business, that if we could have an opportunity to talk to the academic counselors, and have either a room or a table or something that parents who want to get some things clarified about the college,
They're actually there.
Were they there?
stayed in the room the whole time. They
What-
got 2 parents.
See, we didn't know, I didn't know that. Yeah, see, that wouldn't, right, so in terms of maybe publicizing that, but we would have loved to have gone to sit, because parents talk about college and I'm thinking, is that true? They hear it from another parent.
They had handouts, they had a presentation, they were in their room waiting.
Oh.
So they were supposed to be on the map, so I'm guessing they were on the map, there's a little number there for them.
Oh,
But
sorry, but that, okay,
Refinement for next year.
please,
that's good
please.
to know for next year, to
Oh.
publicize more.
Please, that would be great, because we would have been there, because, we're talking about that every time we get together, so thank you.
And then, do you ever have the seniors who are, now been admitted into all these colleges have a panel for the juniors to watch?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like they could pass on, everything that they just lived through, because it's like right in the tip of their, mind.
Have you ever done that before, Addie? Like a senior panel for the juniors?
We do it at BLA.
Yeah.
And pre-COVID, I think we have, but I don't remember, but that's something I asked Tyra about.
And on that topic, I don't know if some of you saw PBS, they had a film called Try Harder, where they followed a group of seniors during the application process from Lowell High School in San
Oh, yeah.
Francisco. And so it's just amazing to see how students came to decide where to apply, where not to. And then when they got the rejection letters and their other choices and apparently after that film, there's another 2, they followed them up again 2 or 3 months later, maybe 4, to talk about it as well, that once they've gone through the initial. So that is something that is well worth looking at. It's called Try Harder through PBS.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Thank you, Ziva, for doing all the research for these.
Oh,
I know, you made a lot of work.
That's right.
Future board agenda items.
We will be back in June with Lcap and budgets. Those will be our big things. And I know we have a PFA presentation and I'm sure some others that I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Student services.
See, I knew there was at least one.
And it's gonna be a 30-minute presentation, prepare yourself, I have the inclusive ed and counseling. So 15 minutes each, just let you know.
Okay.
More chocolate. Yeah, more chocolate. Who's bringing chocolate next time? Whose turn?
Can I promote our meeting for next week?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay, so the inclusive ed parent meeting and the ELAC groups are combining. It's gonna be powerhouse next Monday night, right here, 5:30 to 6:30. We're gonna be talking celebrations, we're gonna be talking parent survey data, we're going to be talking about our how we do instruction, getting parent feedback, planning for next year. Mark your calendars, come on down. All parents are welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to adjourn?
Anything else? I think we
I
probably
think
should.
yeah.
All right, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:21. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Is that the